Welcome to B-Side Episode 1. I'm Brett.
I'm Jen.
And our special guest today is Will Evans. Get interesting guests on the show, put them in the middle here, and then just say, talk.
Something interesting about myself? I mean, I have a master's degree in Russian culture, so that's pretty interesting, right? What's interesting about me? My name's Will, I'm straight edge, and I'm 34.
How did you get so into Russia?
In 9th grade in North Carolina, in the small town I grew up in, that was the year in which we had to read international literature. Me and all my classmates were like, how could we read it if it wasn't written in English originally? That's crazy. One of the books on the list that had the coolest title, that's the one I'm gonna pick. It was The Life of a Useless Man.
Yes!
By Maxim Gorky. I was fascinated by the history, so I started reading a lot about Russia outside of the book, and I said, when I go to college one day, if they offer Russian, I'll take it. I've never read Dostoevsky and Tolstoy before. I must read them if I'm getting a college experience. And so I took this class. That's the class that changed my life. The professor was like this amazing woman. My entire life trajectory changed in that first semester. You know, Tolstoy and Dostoevsky are not just the greatest Russian writers, they're the greatest writers in the world. Anna Karenina is often rated the best novel ever, and if it's not that, it's The Brothers Karamazov. It's one or the other. I was gonna get a PhD in Russian literature. I was accepted to a program, but at the same time, my best friends were in a band and they were doing really well. And they said, come on tour. And I said, graduate school is gonna be there. Russia ain't going anywhere, so I went on tour. I translated a Russian novel. And so I just love Russia, and it got me going.
That's gonna be blinking.
Passion.
I was interested in what Will had to say about translation.
There is a philosopher who once famously said that every act of communication is an act of translation. So there is inherently a different lived experience of language and thought inside of every person in every context. And every context is different in every moment. Dr. Steve Brule. If you can actually wrap your head around that, like, it's really beautiful, right? Like, it's a really beautiful thing.
I cannot watch this video with someone with a bright yellow shirt.
I actually never look at it.
There may not be a one-word translation, but you can say what it is. There's a German word for like the sense of longing for something you've never had, right? Great. I just said what it is. And it can explain so much, and hopefully it can calm so much of the aggression of people who don't understand each other, right? Because everything can be mistranslated, everything you say. People ask me all the time, they're like, why do you publish books in the 21st century? Amazon, digital, all these things, as if a book isn't a form of technology, right? This is just this concept that a book is a rigid, obsolete object that exists on shelves only to gather dust and to mildew and to rot away. There are studies that are coming out, increasing numbers, because people want to know why, if you read something on a screen, if you're reading it on your screen right now, it goes to a different part of your brain than if you read it in a print book. And so if you're reading something in a print book, the way that the words are laid out in a page in a print book have been perfected over time to be memorized. They have been perfected over time to go to the long-term memory of our brain to where they can be recalled. This does not happen when you read anything on any kind of screen, and they cannot explain why. That's pretty cool, right? Oh, sorry. If you're watching this on an iPad, I love you.
Fiction versus nonfiction.
Should you just read fiction?
I have friends who are like, I don't know why you read fiction, because I want to know what's going on in the world, so I only read nonfiction. Like, that's a very skewed view of the world. Fiction is a way of processing reality. I guess you could say a way of processing our lived nonfiction in a way that turns into some form of truth. The number of Americans who buy 10 books a year or more is a fraction of Americans. It's like 3% of Americans, you could say. And then the number of Americans who have read a book last year is not 100%. Do I think it's worse now than before? No, people have always been entertained by other things, right? Now we have digital distractions. So people seem to think that like, oh, before people weren't watching movies on their phones, therefore they were reading books. No, dog, they were fishing or fixing their car or taking a walk. They were doing something different. Sure, we all have these leisure activities, but if you are not a reader, you were not a reader 100 years ago. You know? B-side, walking on the B-side.
So what is straight edge? Let's go there.
Straight edge is like a lifestyle philosophy. It kind of came out of a musical movement around hardcore punk in the early 1980s, Minor Threat. But what is punk? Punk is stepping outside of what is normal and saying, whoa, that's not cool, that's not cool, that's not cool. We need to be better than that. They wrote a song called Straight Edge. It's like 50 seconds long. And in it, they say they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do drugs, and they don't have promiscuous sex. And that's straight edge. You know, we want to escape. You know, if you're escaping the drug and alcohol culture, you also need to escape this like consumer culture that we're a part of, right? Which social media fits in today. You got to get away from all the addictive influences and people just throwing crap at you and saying, this is what's expected of you in society, and stepping out of it and going, no, man, there's something more, and it's internal, right? Like, we all got to achieve some sort of higher plateau of being.
Okay, I need a glass of wine.
Yeah, literally, education is being confronted with what you don't know, and being confronted with ideas that challenge you and unsettle you and make you question what you do believe. That is education.
I was really excited to ask Will this question, which is probably the only time I'll ever be able to do it. What can hardcore punks and Russian literature teach us about business? Let's see what he said.
Well, I think that there's a lot to learn about the human capacity for good that comes from literature. These authors are dealing with the existential questions of the times, and those questions are the same today as they were 100, 200 years ago, because they're the questions that are, inherent in just our existence. Why are we here? Why do we do what we do? And I think that those are really important questions. I think that anyone invested in business, if you're just reading business philosophy books, you're only getting like a fraction of a reality. But if you go read the Brothers Karamazov, in addition to the business philosophy books, you're going to see yourself colored and enhanced by this outside, way of thinking. Human behavior is the market. Human behavior controls the market. So if you really want to be good at business, you kind of have to get inside the human condition, which is empathy. And if you read literature, something about the quality of storytelling that evolves through fictional techniques, you can really learn a lot about other people, and you can be a better leader that way. You can be a better employee that way. You can be a better husband or wife. You can be a better son or daughter. You can just be a better person if you're able to get a little bit of that. I guess I need to turn this into a corporate pitch, right? And go be like, storytelling is a part of the corporate experience. You need to be telling the story of you. Then it becomes the story of the brand. And then
It's true.
to be able to have a place to go, to feel a sense of belonging, community is very valuable to people. Whether it's online or whether it's real, to have a place where you can go and share your voice and your experience with people. This is why I own a bookstore in this day and age, because it's still a place where people can gather and share ideas and get exposed to other perspectives.
But you can actually go across and meet Will. And that's the great thing about B-Side, because these people were in Dallas. In fact, they're right here. You can go and meet them and talk to them about what you've heard in the show.
And you should.
These days, people are like, follow your passion. I don't think that's good advice, right? But understanding your passion and getting to the root of your passion, and then how your passion can guide you through life. It's not just follow it, but it's a guide. It's a pathway. It's not just follow it. It's like, oh, I love hardcore punk, therefore I'm going to drop out of life and like tour with hardcore punk bands. It's like, nah, that's not happiness. That's not fulfillment. It's not like everything to me. But hardcore punk is like part of this experience that rounds out all the other passions I have in life. I'm passionate about a lot of things. Passionate about Russian literature, passionate about coffee, passionate about petting my cat, passionate about watching baseball. Yo, I don't have any time. I have a 2-year-old. This is insane. Like, I don't do any of these things anymore. I just watch baseball on mute while I do the dishes. My passion is writing. There's a gap between writing and selling. There's a gap between writing and publishing.
Right.
And I'm an artist. I'm passionate about art. So I'm going to quit my job to do art full time. Well, then your job is art. Mm-hmm. Are you passionate about jobs, or are you passionate about art? Right. You have to ask yourself, like, these are things that you have to like kind of follow through with, right? Because that's how people get disillusioned. Sure. That's how people drop out of things that they've started. Literature. It all comes back to literature. Everything is literature. This is literature.
Very broad sense of that word.
And on that note, Will Evans, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is an honor.
Thank you for joining us on B-Side.
What she said. And tell us what you think. Write something in the comments. And if you like this and want to see more of it, please like it and share it and comment.
Thanks for watching.